right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming this morning to ACAP Hall County. Just a couple things before we get started. The year schedule is on the back table if you want to grab one of those before you leave. That will tell you what the topics are each month going forward and the date those will be on. Again, this meeting is every second Tuesday of the month from 10 to about 11:30. So you can go on the ACAP Hall County website to register for upcoming sessions. It won't tell you who the speaker is until you get on and register for the session, but you'll at least know the topic and the date on that form. Again, the bathroom is out the door to the left, 2 bathrooms on the left. And this is being recorded, so please keep that in mind. At the end, I can stop the recording for questions, but we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so today's topic is finding and using senior services in your local community. I'm Elaine Harkins. I work for Legacy Link. We are the area agency on aging, and I am the ADRC director. So ADRC stands for Aging and Disability Resource Connection. So we'll get into what that is shortly. So our mission at Legacy Link is to support and advocate for aging adults and individuals with disabilities to be their link to a better life. So what is an area agency on aging? Is everybody familiar with Legacy Link and what that is? No? Okay. So we're a nonprofit designated by the state to address the needs and concerns of aging and people that are aging and people with disabilities at both the regional and local levels. So we already went over our mission statement, and down here is a list of counties that we serve. So we serve 13 counties in the North Georgia Mountain area. Some of our programs do go into other parts of the state, and we'll kind of go over that once we get to those programs. But primarily for the area agency on aging, these are the counties that we serve. So Georgia's Aging and Disability Resource Connection, so ADRC is what I'll call it. So it's your access point to services and resources that are related to aging and disabilities. So that's going to be your intake department essentially. So when somebody calls in or walks in or a referral is sent, it's going straight to the ADRC department. They're processing it, calling clients, calling family members, providers, and going over what different services the agency offers and then what different programs that we can potentially put older adults and people with disabilities into as far as in-home services or personal care home placement. So we're basically the entryway into the agency. So information and referral assistance. So this is like the meat and potatoes of the ADRC department. So if you're needing some assistance in the home, or if you have a family member that needs assistance in the home, and you don't know where to look, you call Legacy Link, and you can speak with somebody in the ADRC department, and we have access to a database of resources that are statewide. So we primarily vet the resources in our 13 county region, but we have access to the database statewide. So if you guys, is there anybody that doesn't live in one of our 13 counties? Gwinnett or, no, everybody's in our region. So when you call, you can access an ADRC counselor or the database resource specialist, and they'll access that database for you and provide you with resources in the area depending on what your wants and needs are. And there's anything from Meals on Wheels resources, home care providers, all the way to lawn companies, home modification, pet sitting. So pretty much anything that you can think of, we probably have a resource for it. If we don't, we will try to find you a resource and point you in the right direction. So ADRC counselors are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. When you call in, you'll get an ADRC counselor, but you can walk in the front door any of those days and between that time period, and there will always be an ADRC counselor on staff to sit down and meet with you. They can go over resources, answer general questions, and do everything all the way to screening for programs. If you need to refer somebody to the ADRC, you can give us a call. Our phone number is right there. We also have some brochures up front about the intake process. We have our newsletter and we have our program and service guide. My card is also up there, so there's email addresses, there's phone numbers that you could call to access those services and refer somebody. You can also visit us at legacylink.org. There's a place to make a referral on our website, or our phone number and program and service information is on there as well. So I'll talk a little bit about the different kinds of in-home service programs that we do assessments for within the ADRC. So if you have somebody that is looking for in-home help, so whether that be housekeeping, personal care, Meals on Wheels, somebody to come in and help your loved one or just get you a meal, all the way to personal care home placement. So home and community-based services is our grant-funded program. So with our grant-funded program, we have the option for homemaker, which is about 4 hours a week of light housekeeping, changing bed linens, taking out trash, just kind of basic household cleanup. We have the option for personal care, which is either somebody that might just be sitting in the bathroom with somebody while they bathe because they're afraid of falling and they just kind of want that reassurance there, all the way to physical assistance where they actually need help with bathing. Someone can get those services up to 4 hours per week as well. With our home delivered meals, it's 1 meal per day around lunchtime or a box of frozen meals at the start of the week. With these senior centers, it just depends on how far the person lives outside of the senior center as to whether they can get a hot or frozen meal, because it does have to stay at a certain temperature. So if you live too far away from the senior center, you can get a box of frozen every week to put in your freezer and then heat those up as you like. We have in-home respite option, which is basically providing that housekeeping and personal care, so max of 8 hours per week, and that gives the caregiver a little time to step away and let somebody else kind of handle those tasks for a little while. We also have an out-of-home respite option, which can take place either at a senior center that provides that day program or at a day facility program. We have 2 in our region. Skylark is the main provider, and then we also have one called Habersham Retreat in Banks County, and Skylark is located in Forsyth. So all of these programs are going to be grant funded. Again, they're minimal hours per week, either 4 hours a week of housekeeping, 4 hours a week of personal care. You can get both home delivered meals as well. So with the housekeeping and the personal care, there may be a cost just depending on the client's income and how many people are in the home. Same with the in-home respite. With the home delivered meals, those are free. There just has to be a need for these services, and the person has to be 60 or over to access them. Do you guys have any questions about that so far? Right. So we'll move on to the community care service program. So this is the other program that the ADRC counselors are going to do screenings for, either in person or over the phone. And this is a Medicaid waiver program. So this is going to be a little different from the grant. It does provide some of the same services, homemaker, personal care, home delivered meals. This one adds an emergency response system in. So like the button that you wear around your neck, sometimes there's now an option for a watch, just depending on the provider. The respite option is also included in this to give the caregiver some breaks. There's a nursing assessment involved because it is Medicaid, so the person does have to go through an approval process where the ADRC counselor does the screening, passes it off to the nurse. The nurse makes sure there's a need when they go out to the home and do their assessment. The doctor has to sign the level of care for this program. And then there's a nursing assessment that is done as needed or annually to make sure that the person is still eligible for the services going forward. They get a case manager when they are enrolled in the community care service program. And that case manager makes contact with the person every month, but they're in charge of brokering services to a provider, making sure the meals are coming, making sure the aid is coming out. So The community care service program, the nurses and the case managers don't directly provide the housekeeping, the personal care, the meals. It's brokered out to a third-party provider where they actually have the aide that comes in, or they have the meal service coming in. So with the Medicaid waiver, the home delivered meals don't always come from the senior center. They may come from another provider. There's a really popular one out there you guys might have heard of, Mom's Meals. So it just depends on the want of the client. They get to choose the provider, but the case manager and the nurse is there to make sure everything is flowing and that they're still eligible for the services. Any questions about that? So there are some requirements for the community care service program with it being Medicaid. So the person has to be 65 or older or to be declared disabled by Social Security. So it can't be, hey, my doctor said I'm disabled. It needs to actually be a declaration by Social Security. They have to meet what's called a level of care and level of impairment. So when we are talking about doing an assessment, we go through a series of questions about what the person can and cannot do for themselves. We talk about ADLs, IADLs, and they basically get a score by the end of the assessment based on what they can and cannot do for themselves. There is a component where we have to take into consideration if they have a caregiver or if they're trying to do the tasks on their own and they're either getting completed or they're not. So they have to meet that nursing home level of care, level of impairment based on physical impairments. So with this program, they need a primary diagnosis, like a primary functional diagnosis. It can't be a primary diagnosis of a behavioral health disorder or mental health disorder. It's got to be that physical. They can have those other diagnoses, but they have to be kind of secondary. And we will gather ICD-10 codes from the doctors to make sure that they do potentially meet the criteria so that we're not putting them through this process and there's no way they're going to qualify. So we're not wasting their time. Basically, we want them to be eligible for the program. If we do come across somebody that doesn't have the correct diagnosis, they're more of a mental health diagnosis or behavioral health, there are other waivers in the state that we can guide them to where they can apply for in-home services through those waivers. With this program, we also have to look at income. So anything that the person makes over $941 is subject to a cost share. So they do have to be agreeable to potentially paying per month for the services. We also look at resources like stocks, bonds, checking, savings, CDs to see what kind of financial resources they have. There are limits depending on if you're single or married. And then we do look at money set aside for burial, if you have whole or term life insurance. So just some financial aspects that we need to look at prior to make sure that you're potentially eligible for Medicaid. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay. So in the ADRC department, it's not just calling in, getting the resources over the phone, being screened for a program. We do have some other sections of the department. So we have a care consultation program, and this is all in the program and service guide up front if you want to grab one of those when we're done. And this is all also on our website. So the care consultation program is an over-the-phone support line for burdened caregivers. So anybody that is just very stressed out or sad about their current caregiving situation, they're having a hard time, they don't know how to go about, caring for a certain disease that maybe their loved one had just been diagnosed with, they can call the care consultation line and they can do anything from being just kind of like a shoulder to cry on all the way to finding specific resources for that diagnosis. We have one care consultant who has done a lot of research on dementia, Alzheimer's, frontal temporal lobe dementia, and so she has some outside resources that she kind of points people towards, and she can kind of give some guidance on if your loved one is displaying a certain behavior, how you should deal with that. So that is Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Those ladies are accessible. That is a free service. and you don't have to be enrolled in any other program to access that. We have our dementia care specialist who is in charge of outreach and education within our office and within the community. She's going to be going out to senior centers, libraries, any kind of community organization where they have community members that want to learn more about dementia, Alzheimer's, any kind of cognitive impairments. She will be able to go out and do in service. She's also going to be doing some classes here. There's a really popular one called Dealing with Dementia. It's through the Rosalind Carter Institute, and it's a day-long program. We're going to be doing a couple here and a couple in the community. You get a big book, and you just kind of go through different behaviors. Maybe you have somebody that's exhibiting sundowners. There's just all kinds of tips and tricks. So you just move through the book during the day and kind of learn about how to deal with the different things that come along with that kind of diagnosis. We have the MDSQ options counseling and transition coordinators. So when you have somebody that goes into a nursing or rehab facility and they get a nurse's assessment, it's called the MDS. There's a question called Q, and it asks, are you interested in learning about resources in your community to go back out of the nursing home? Because you guys probably know it's a lot more expensive to keep people in nursing homes than it is to provide services in the community and keep them in their own home. And a lot of people would prefer to be in their own home versus a facility anyway. So if they answer yes, it triggers a referral to us. We have 2 staff that go out to our nursing homes. In our 13-county region, we have 22 nursing homes. So they can go out and give resources, do everything that the phone counselors do at the bedside. They can screen for the Medicaid waiver, for the grant program, but they also screen for transition programs, which is where our transition coordinators come in. So we have 2 of those programs. One is called Money Follows the Person, and one is Nursing Home Transitions. They both have different criteria as far as how long somebody's in a nursing home, if they have Medicaid, if they're leaving on a Medicaid waiver, like the one we just spoke about. Typically, our nursing home transition program, we see more people that are in short-term rehab that maybe just need like a home modification to go home. Maybe they're in a wheelchair now and they can't get through their bathroom door. They need it widened. So we can find a contractor, send the contractor in, get the door widened, and the person can go back home. Money Follows the Person, we typically see people who no longer have housing. They may have been in the nursing home for an extended period of time, and they just really need to get back on their feet as far as finding somewhere to live or a home modification in a loved one's home that's willing to take them in. So they both have different criteria, but they both serve the same purpose, to get the person back out into the community, either with somebody or in an independent setting. We also have our Georgia SHIP program, which is our Medicare counseling service. So open enrollment just ended back in December, but typically October to December is our open enrollment period for people to change their plans, enroll in a new plan, kind of see what new plans are out there. Is there something I should change to because maybe my prescriptions are cheaper? So they can come, give all their information, get an unbiased opinion about what plan they should enroll in for the upcoming year. Right now we're in the middle of open enrollment for Advantage plans. They do a lot of outreach and education in the community. You can always check our website. We have a calendar of events. There's a new to Medicare boot camp every week for people that are going into Medicare, who just kind of want to learn about it, because you guys know you get that big book in the mail and no one can read that because it makes no sense. So our counselors and our staff can decipher all of that for you, answer all your questions, and let you know what the best plan for you to enroll in. Anybody have any questions about what we just talked about? Okay. So the Senior Community Service Employment Program, we call it SCSEP, some other areas call it CSEP. It is basically a training program for people who are wanting to re-enter the workforce. So you have to be 55 or older and have a limited income. And then once you're accepted into the program, you have a training assignment. You're placed anywhere from a nonprofit to a government agency. The max amount of hours you can work per week is 29. And the hope is that you gain employment outside of this program after at maybe one of the places that you worked, or maybe you go out and get another job. But you're basically just refreshing your job skills so that you can go back into the workforce. Some community programs that we have. So we have a assistive technology program. So this is for anybody to call in. You can talk to our assistive technology coordinator. We have an assistive technology lab here at Legacy Link. She can take you through that. But basically, if you are needing some kind of technology, now whether that be technology like you're thinking like a phone or an Alexa or something like that, all the way to basic, like you just need shoelaces that are already tied, that just have a little like zipper thing on them so they stay in place. So assistive technology can be super simple. Another example is like the tape that you put on the floor or on steps so people can see better where the steps are. So anything that helps you through your day-to-day that another good example is a can opener. A lot of people can't crank the can opener anymore, so they can get a, I forget what it's called, but it goes on the top of the can, you press the button, and it opens it for you. So it could be really simple, or it could be, you know, all the way to the Alexa, something like that. Turn your lights on for you, start your laundry. So we have the lab, which you can call and make an appointment with Emily, and she can take you through the lab, and you can see all the different gadgets that we have. We have over 100 different gadgets in our assistive technology lab. We have our retired senior volunteer program. So if you have somebody that is interested in volunteering in the community, instead of going to individual places, you can enroll in the RSVP program, and the director of that program will kind of place you within an agency to volunteer. We also have a wellness component. She does all kinds of different classes. Some of them are physical classes. I think Matter of Balance, you actually get up and you do some physical things. There's a new program called Bingo Size where you're playing bingo, but there's also an exercise that goes with it. It's mostly a chair exercise or something easy where you stand and do a movement. She also does some educational classes, diabetes self-management, classes on chronic diseases, things like that. Some of those programs, I believe they ask for a donation, but most of them are free. And they're either going to take place here or somewhere in the community. And again, those are going to be on our website. So you can kind of see where they are, what time, how to sign up for those. Anybody have any questions about community programs? All right, so senior centers. So again, we have 13 senior centers in our 13 county region. We're contracted with 11 of them to provide meals. ADRC counselors do provide the screening for home delivered meals and not the congregate meal program, I'm sorry, just for the home delivered meals. If somebody's interested in a congregate meal, which is going to the senior center, sitting down, having a meal, they just contact the senior center directly. They also have education and activities. So some of the education we come out and do, some of the education senior center staff is providing, and then of course activities, not just bingo, but there's other activities. Sometimes they take trips. I know one senior center recently took a trip to Cherokee. There have been others that, what is the store? Hamricks? They go to Hamricks. I think that's in like North Carolina or South Carolina or Greenville. Yeah, so they'll go on different kinds of trips. But your typical activities that you think of, bingo, things like that, and then other wellness activities and education programs. So we don't provide the elderly and legal assistance program directly out of our office. We contract with Georgia Legal, But as long as you're 60 years old or older, you can access Elderly Legal Assistance Program staff, and they provide free legal assistance and counseling. Some of the things that they can talk to you about are housing, utility assistance. A lot of people go there for wills, just all kinds of different things that you would need to go and seek legal advice for. And again, they're not in our office, but they're in Gainesville. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.